Good morning to us all. My name is Emmanuela Tete, a member of Group 6, and these are my group members. Our presentation is on multiple intelligence in early grade mathematics education. My group and I have done a detailed work, and we are certain that by the end of the presentation, you and I should be able to, one, explain the principles of Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence and its relevance to mathematics education. Two, we should be able to identify the various intelligence and their influence on learning mathematics. Three, we will also see how to design effective teaching or instructional strategies that leverage multiple intelligence. Then four, we will see how to develop an inclusive lesson plan as teachers for different developmental levels. So now, to start with, one would ask, what do we mean by multiple intelligence theory? What is it about? But then let's refresh our knowledge on what theory is. So we have defined theory as a set of ideas that is used to explain how things happen, why they happen, based on observations, critical thinking, analysis, and evidence. So just like the other theories we have looked at in the previous weeks, we are also seeing that multiple intelligence theory, well, as proposed by Howard Gardner, says that intelligence is not one single ability, but a combination of different abilities. So, what does this mean? He is simply saying that every individual learns differently and in different ways because we all have different kinds of intelligence, hence the name multiple. So, he derived this from our basic way of thinking. So because when we say multiple, we are looking at not one, not two, but then three or more. And then he attached it to intelligence. That's how come he got the name multiple intelligence. So as teachers with the knowledge of this theory, and then with our students at heart, we should address the diverse intellectual strengths of each student in our class. So we are going to watch a video on multiple intelligence for a deeper or a better understanding. Okay, so from the video, we could realize that this theory, unlike some theories that we have learned,
Is a controversial theory.
so from the video, we could see that this theory, unlike some theories we have learned, is encouraging a more holistic curriculum. So it is supporting this current curriculum whereby there is a need to develop the child's whole being. And then also, it's also looking at personalizing learning. So it is considering each learner and how they learn individually. So it's not looking at learners as a group or as a whole. It's not generalizing everybody, but then putting everybody in their own space where they can fit. And then also it also shows that we all have unique strengths. So our learners are in the same classroom, probably same age, same height, probably, they all have unique learning strengths, or they all have unique strengths in how they learn. Thank you.
I'll be continuing from where my colleague.
Multiple intelligence.
I'll be talking about the eight intelligences by Howard. The eight intelligence consists of comprises of the linguistical intelligence, logical intelligence, partial intelligence, musical intelligence, bodily kinetic intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, and naturalistic intelligences. So when you talk of intelligence, what does it mean? Intelligence is how well someone can use their mind to understand things and deal with eight challenges. We can apply this in the classroom. A learner is being given a question to solve. So the learner, depending on the mind to understand, or how the learner understands it, that he or she will be able to solve it, so that in that situation he or she is dealing with the challenges. So we're moving on to the linguistic intelligence. When you talk about linguistic intelligence, it's the ability to use words effectively or English or language effectively in writing, speaking and reading or listening. Some examples of linguistic intelligence are: a person with strong intelligence can: one, enjoy reading and writing; two, learn new words easily. Let's say learning of new words easily. You've been given a particular book to the class to read. You find some new words in the book. So in that moment, someone with linguistic intelligence will be applying it over there. So words there will not be difficult for that learner to pronounce. Three, speak confidently and clearly. Let's say group discussion, you'll be given a particular topic to solve on it. So um, the person with linguistic intelligence can therefore have the boldness, confidence to read out to the class to express his or herself. Four, a person with good, a person with a person with linguistic intelligence is good at storytelling and explaining ideas. And also, linguistic intelligence can therefore be called word smart intelligence. I'll move on to some importance or relevance of linguistic intelligence. One, it helps students understand instructions. It helps students to understand instruction. Two, improve performance in subjects like English, history, and literature. With the history part, let's say with the literature part, literature have many break pronunciation ways. Some words are very difficult to pronounce, but a learner with linguistic intelligence can therefore find it easily to pronounce that particular word. So we can find some careers that requires linguistic intelligence, which is the journalism. When I talk about journalism, you understand, because journalism talk about, it refers to a person who can speak confidently, clearly, to or someone who can express his or herself in public. Two, teaching well applies. And three, writing. The last one, media. Thank you. I'll hand over to my next presenter.
Okay, I'm Fidelsi Akube, and I'm talking about the logical mathematical intelligence. So when we talk about logical mathematical intelligence, is the ability to think carefully and solve problems step by step. So so one, solving equation and puzzles. So let's say examples. I have two apples, then I have three apples, then I get two more apples. How many am I going to get? So this is when the child thinks carefully and tell you the answer. So meaning if 3 plus 2 is going to give you 5, down meaning the child has thought about it. If I have 3 apples and I'm adding 2, I'm going to get 5. And to identify patterns. So identify patterns and relationships. So and this I have another examples here when you have maybe I the teacher I'm the teacher, then I put two different colors. So I put red, blue. So if I tell the child to do to to identify them, so first the child knows this blue, this red. So if I tell the child to do same thing, so the child be like, oh, my teacher did red, blue, so I'm also going to continue with red, blue, and so on. So that's where the identifying patterns. Then we'll go to the conducting logical proofs. So it is a step by step explanation that shows why something is true using clear reasoning and facts. So then we'll go to the I love. Okay, so the logical intelligence. This is a diagram of the logical mathematical intelligence. So this diagram shows us about the patterns, the logic, and the working numbers, questioning, and other. So when we come to the logic, the logic is like solving reasonable problems. Then we go to the pattern. The pattern, just like I used for the first examples, you arrange, let's say you arrange leaves in sequence, then you tell the child to predict what's the next item to. Then we go to the questionings. Then this is when the child asks why, or why this happened. So the child, maybe you have an object in the box, then the child will ask yes or no question to guess what is in the item. Then we go to the working with numbers. So that one you can give a simple addition, like you can give a redeem numbers, use it used to count additional numbers. So let's say we have a rhythm like five little monkeys jumping. So if you use that rhythm, that rhyme, that rhythm is going to. So if five little monkeys jumping on the bed, one fell down, then the doctor said. So it's like additional this thing. So it's a simple addition we use there. Then I'll move on to the relevance of logical mathematical intelligence in mathematics education. So as a teacher, you before a child understand patterns, the child must know the two timetable and maybe the even numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, then 10. So one, support patterns recognition, algebraic reasoning. So these recognition patterns prepare them for higher mathematics in future. So two, enables understanding of relationship structures. So children begin to understand what difference between big or small, um, big, small, more, less, before and after. So let example, if I have one apple, then I add one more apple, it's going to give me more because I added one to another one, and it's going to give me more. So it makes the child, it builds the child mathematical understanding. Then we go to the facilitate deductive reasoning improves. So this makes the child learn to think and solve problems. So let's say they ask the child to solve 5 plus 3 times 2. The child is going to use board math. So this is when multiplication comes first. Then we'll go to the enhanced accuracy in calculation. Simple addition. Let's say example is like when I have two pencils and I get one more pencil. How many pencils do I have now? So this is when the child thinks, if I have two, then I'm adding one. So 3 plus 2 is going to give me 3. So this is all what the relevance of logical mathematics intelligence in mathematics education talks about. Please, I'll move on to the next.
Okay, I'm Patricia Joseph, and I'm going to continue with spatial intelligence. When we say spatial intelligence, it refers to the ability to visualize, manipulate, and interpret visual information. It simply means that the ability to see and manipulate shapes and layout in your mind, or how to understand object and how to relate it to each other. Imagine how things will look like if they are rotated, moved, or redesigned. For example, a teacher teaching fraction in an early grade class can display a drawing of a circle on a paper and divide the paper into two equal parts to show that when the circle is divided into two equal parts, it shows a half, which is 1/2. She can also divide that same paper into four and to represent 1/4. So with that, it will help the learner to be able to understand the fraction that's being taught. So I'll move on to some relevant of intelligence in mathematics education. It helps interpret graphs and diagrams. So with the help of the visual pictures and manipulate objects or shapes, it will help the learner to be able to know the direction of how the graph is being drawn and how it moves and how the diagram rotates and all that. Secondly, support visualization of shapes and transformation. This one will help the learner to be able to know the difference between the shapes and how they relate and how to and how it gives meaning. Thirdly, it aids or help understanding of place value. For example, using a teacher teaching in early grade class can use type 10 bundle of sticks and together to show ones and 4 to show 10 bundle of sticks to show tens and the 10 and the 4 to show the ones. So with this, I'll continue with musical intelligence. When we say musical intelligence, it simply refers to how we understand music and create them. So with this, it can only be done when the learner is able to involve him or herself in singing, playing music, remembering melodies and rhythms in the sound. So with this, the learner can learn best with this, learn best through the music and rhythms in the songs. So this makes learning very enjoyable and effective in a classroom. So I'll continue with the relevance of musical intelligence in a classroom. So one, it helps memorization. It helps memorization of facts through songs. Example, you can use this song to teach learners at early grade level, such a song like the Jingle Bell, to help them reflect on the words and other things. It helps learners understand fraction using facts, using rhythms. With this one, the learner can be able to understand the fraction by when, for example, teaching an early grade class using how to count, counting numbers, how to count from 1 to 10. With this song, counting ones, counting to one is one alone. An example of that song can help the learners uh, interpret the learning easily. It increases encouragement and motivation. With these songs and rhythms, the learners are able to involve themselves effectively in the classroom. So I'll hand over to my next person.
Good day, everyone. I'm Amina Muhammad Swala, and we are going to continue from the bodily kinesthetic intelligence. The bodily kinesthetic intelligence is the ability to use body movements and hands to learn and solve problems. With this intelligence, or learners that fall under this intelligence are learners with the strength of past active learning. They learn through engagement and participation. Some characteristics of such learners is that they prefer touching, building, or moving to understand concepts. So such learners or learners that fall under this intelligence prefer to touch or to move, to build, to understand what is going on. So when you are in an early grade classroom, then you want to teach such learners counting or counting numbers. To teach them counting numbers, knowing that they fall under this intelligence, you would have to use blocks, counters or bottle tops to help them understand. So when you give them, let's say you give them 5 counters, you add another 2, you tell them to add them together, count them, tell you the results. So when they count them together and tell you the results, they are going to get 7. And that would make them understand the concepts of addition. And they also acting out word problems. So learners physically will play a math scenario to make it concrete. So when you have a mathematical word problem, let's say an example would be maybe Amma has 5 apples. She gives to her friend, 1 to her teacher. So you are going to bring the learners out, give them the rules. So one learner is going to be Amma, the other learner would be a friend and the teacher. So if Amma gives 2 apples to the friend and 1 to the teacher, out of the 5 apples, she's going to have a reminder of 2. So that would make them understand the concept of subtraction, and it's going to make it concrete. And measuring objects physically. So instead of just writing the formulas on the board or saying it out loud, you give them rulers or measuring tapes and let them use their hands to measure real items in the classroom, such as their notebook or their textbooks. Then we are going, there is a visual representation here that is showing what bodily kinesthetic intelligence is all about. The ability to use the body in a skilled way. So the strengths include movement, touching, body language, dancing, and using of tools. And they learn best through touch, and as I have said earlier. So in the classroom, it includes movement, dramatized problems, using manipulatives such as blocks, countertops, or bottle tops. Then we'd move on to its relevance in mathematics education. So it helps learners grasp ideas, abstract ideas concretely. Young learners struggle with abstract numbers. When a child folds a paper in half, they see and feel what half means far better than drawing on the board. So it helps them get the ideas concretely, just as I've said. When you are teaching them what half is, instead of writing it or drawing it on the board, instead of writing or drawing it on the board, you give them a paper and ask them to fold it into two. So when they fold it into two, they understand the concepts. So it becomes concrete and it enhances measurement skills. Learners develop genuine measurements understanding by physically using rulers and weighing objects on balance scale. So when you make the activities physical, you make it interactive and engaging, they, they tend to understand it and it encourages active participation. So even shy or less confident learners get involved when movement is added to the lesson. And it improves retention through experiential learning. So when you teach through experience, through engagement, they intend to keep it and retain it and reproduce it when it's necessary because it is said that researchers say that when you do, they understand better than when you say. And I would move on to the interpersonal intelligence. So this intelligence is the ability to understand and interact effectively. So with this intelligence, learners have the ability to understand when they communicate with each other, when they discuss with each other. So such as some examples is group problem tasks, group problem solving tasks, year to train, mathematical discussion and debate, and cooperative projects. And some key characteristics of it is they enjoy group work and discussion and collaboration. So these are the things that when you see, you know that this person falls under the interpersonal intelligence, good at reading people's emotion and movement motivations, learns well through explaining things to others. So when the child understands the concepts, whenever he or she explains it to this a colleague or someone else, then the person falls under this intelligence and strives in cooperative learning environments. So there is this, and we'll move on to the relevance of interpersonal intelligence in mathematics education. It encourages peer tutoring and group learning. So when with this intelligence, it would encourage group learning. So because they learn better by communicating, they would be encouraged to come together as a group and engaged in what they are doing. And it also enhances discussion and exchange of ideas. Since it's going to be a group, they would have to discuss what they have, exchange their ideas, because that's what fosters and retain their memory or what they've been taught. And it builds confidence through social support. Because it's a group which entails of their students, their colleagues, is going to build their confidence because they are interacting with each other, interacting with one another. It builds their confidence and it builds communication skills in mathematics. And as I've just said, it's a group discussion, a group work. So it's going to make them good communicators in mathematics, good communication skills. They are going to know how to communicate in the mathematical world. And please, I would hand over to the next person to continue. Thank you. Please, the next person
Okay,
would
so I'm
continue.
I'm I'm Priscilla. Taking over from the I'll be talking about the intrapersonal intelligence and the naturalistic intelligence. So according to Gardner, intrapersonal intelligence is the ability to understand yourself. This means knowing what you are good and what you are not good at and how you think. So examples Examples of this is one, self-assessment of understanding. So instead of waiting to be tested or quizzed by your facilitator, you should rather ask yourself or test yourself to know the strength of your understanding of the topic that you've been taught or you are going to be taught. And then also reflective journals on problem solving strategies. So this journal is similar to a diary which keeps checks on your daily life, but then it's a book or but then this time the book or the journal is used to track your problem solving in mass. So maybe what you learned today in class, you use the journal to know how far you've gotten or you've understood what you've been taught, and then how you are going to go about it to retain what you've been taught, and also to you didn't understand. And the setting personal learning goals. So with this, it means that you just don't learn for good grades, but then you set specific goals on learning. So you don't just learn because you have to learn for marks, but then you learn according to you set goals for what you are learning. You set goals that maybe by the end of this I should understand maybe half of the topic or all of the topic. And then how are you going to go about the goals? And the last one is the independent mathematical investigation. So this is exploring a math topic that interests you on your own. So maybe after learning addition, then you explore it on your own. You decide to solve more questions on it on your own instead of waiting for the teacher to test you or something. Then we move on to the relevance of intrapersonal intelligence in mathematics education. So one, it encourages reflection on strategies and mistakes. So an example, maybe you've been given a question that Abba buys three biscuits for 15 cedis and four eggs for 10 cedi, and had a change. Abba bought three biscuits for 15 cedi and four eggs for 10 cedi, and had a change of 25 cedi. How much was she given? So here you are going to need to do addition and multiplication, addition and subtraction. But then at the end of the day, you had a wrong answer. So instead of just erasing the wrong answer and writing the right answer that you've been taught by your teacher or by your colleague, and moving on, you have to reflect on the strategies you used, and then why you made that mistake, and also on how to prevent making the same mistake. Then two, develop perseverance in challenging tasks. So you don't just quit when a math problem that feels over challenging or frustrating, but rather you encourage yourself, or you encourage yourself. You take a break and you try a different approach. You don't just quit it because you are not able to do it, but then you take a break and then you try again until you are able to get the answer you need. And it helps learners set personal goals. So you set goals for yourself. You don't just wait till you are being tasked or being tested by a teacher before you decide to learn, but rather you set goals. So on your own, maybe when you went to school today, you were taught addition. When you come home, you have to continue learning the addition, even though you will not be tested on the addition you are learning the following day when you go to school, but then you have to test yourself on it to be able to have that knowledge retained in your memory. Then we move to, okay, last one is it promotes metacognitive awareness. So this means that you become a more independent learner since you understand how best to learn. When you as a learner, how you learn and understand how best to learn, when you know your learning style, learning becomes very easily, and you can do it independently without relying on a teacher, a facilitator, or even a colleague. So we moved to the naturalistic intelligence. So this refers to the ability to recognize, categorize, and draw categories and draw patterns from natural world. So this is can be compared to the intelligence of a bird watcher who can identify birds by their song and feathers. So the bird watcher watches the bird from a distance, and then by the feathers
of the bird, or by the song the bird is by the song the bird is singing, the bird watcher will be able to tell which kind of bird it is. So example is collecting and analyzing environmental data. So with this, an example is a class. You can make your class count the numbers of different bird species in the schoolyard over a week. Then using math, you create graphs, grouping them into colors and how big they are. So with a graph, you are able to show that 15 of the birds were maybe brown in color, 3 were black in color, and then maybe we had 4 smaller birds and maybe 6 bigger birds. And then measuring plants growth or rainfall. This is turning a science experiment into math lesson. Example, measuring daily rainfall and calculating the total for a month. So how long did it rain? When did it start? And when did it end? You calculate all those during the month, and at the end of the month, you know the total number of times it rained and at which time which time of the day it rained on each day. Then we move to the relevance of naturalistic intelligence in mathematics education. So meaningful learning occurs when knowledge is linked to existing cognitive structure. So according to Osibel. So meaningful learning. The meaningful learning happens when you contact new information to things you already know and understand. So you have knowledge of maybe addition, subtraction, multiplication, and all those. Then now you go to fraction. With fraction, now you already have an understanding of the addition, multiplication, and then subtraction. So going to learn fraction is going to be very easy because you already have the knowledge of the addition, subtraction, etc. So and then two, a contrast with rote learning, which relies on memorization. So naturalistic intelligence contrasts with rote learning. What is rote learning? Rote learning is memorizing facts without understanding. So example is maybe you are student chanting 3 times 4 equals 12 without knowing that the 3 times 4 means that 3 groups of 4 will give you 12. That's rote learning. So even though they are whatever they are saying or whatever they are being taught is no sorry whatever they are saying is from something they've been taught already with, even though they have no understanding of it. And then lastly is meaningful learning improves retention, understanding, and transfer. So with this, you are not just memorizing, but rather you are understanding what you are memorizing and you are connecting it to real life example, real life example to be able to bring out the understanding well. So taking an example is like maybe you are connecting the new idea of a hexagon to something you already know and then you understand. So an example is maybe hexagon, you can connect hexagon to a honeycomb. So you know that hexagon has 6 sides and then honeycomb kind of looks like hexagon and then it also has 6 sides. So this you didn't just learn hexagon from the teacher, but then you've connected it, you've had the understanding of what a hexagon is and you've been able to connect it to a honeycomb, which is something in their real life. So I'm done. We'll move to the next person.
Okay, I'm Michael, and I'll be discussing on multiple intelligences in inclusive classrooms and its application in mathematics. According to Howard Gardner's theories of multiple intelligences, learners possess different types of intelligence. such as linguistic, logical, mathematical, spatial, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and bodily kinesthetic intelligence. This means that students do not all learn in the same way. In an inclusive classroom, the teacher provides varied tasks aligned to these different intelligences. For example, while some learners may understand a concept through verbal explanation, others may need diagrams, hands-on activities, or group discussions. This ensures that teaching does not favor only one type of learner. Additionally, students should be allowed multiple ways to demonstrate understanding. Instead of relying on written tests, learners can present orally, create models, or complete projects. This promotes fairness and differentiation, as Tomlinson suggests. Ultimately, recognizing diverse strengths among learners increases participation, confidence, and academic engagement. Supporting diverse learners. Here, the slides is telling us to it shows practical ways teachers can support diverse learners in inclusive settings. So, first of all, teachers are to encourage peer collaboration. This allows students to leverage their interpersonal strengths. Through group work, learners construct knowledge socially, supporting John and Johnson's view of cooperative learning. Second, you are to promote self-directed learning supports promoting self-directed learning supports intrapersonal development. When students are given opportunities for reflection or independent tasks, they develop autonomy and deeper understanding. Now, we also reducing barriers through flexible teaching approaches is essential. This includes adjusting instructional strategies, assessment formats, and pacing to meet learners' needs. Inclusive instruction therefore increases participation and build learners' confidence. We also look at application in mathematics. Applying multiple intelligence in mathematics requires presenting concepts using multiple approaches, verbal explanations, visual diagrams, practical activities, and collaborative problem solving. Teachers should also use varied teaching resources such as manipulative number lines, technology, and real life materials. According to the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, such resources enhance conceptual understanding by connecting mathematics to real life situations. Learners see its relevance, which improves motivation and knowledge transfer. So, in conclusion, applying multiple intelligence theory in mathematics promotes inclusivity, engagement, and deeper conceptual understanding for all learners. I'll hand over to my next presenter. Thank you.
So, application of multiple intelligence in mathematics allows students to demonstrate understanding in multiple formats such as oral explanation, written, application of multiple intelligence in mathematics designs activities that engage different learner strengths and abilities, promoting inclusive participation. So with this, the instructor is supposed to engage every student in the class since every student have different learning abilities. For example, for the visual learner, the student is the facilitator is supposed to design geometric puzzles for the visual learner and also for the verbal learner. Supposed to give the verbal learner problem solving math questions so that the students will be able to solve and understand its concept. Encourage group work and peer interactions to support social construction of knowledge. So the instructor is supposed to put the students into groups and into
groups and give them group assignments for them to interact among themselves. When this is done, they're able to interact among themselves, and also it supports social construction of knowledge and also retentive memory. Connect mathematics to everyday situations and real world problem solving to increase relevance and transfer of learning. So, for example, the instructor comes to class and teaches shapes. So the instructor teaches that um, and cuts out boxes and cuts out square boxes and a rectangle box and teaches them that a rectangle has two sides equal, a square has four sides equal. So anytime the child goes out there and sees a box which has four sides equal, the child automatically knows that it's a square. Also allow students to demonstrate understanding in multiple formats such as oral explanation, written work, models, or projects. So the facilitator is supposed to allow the students demonstrate whatever is being taught and how they understand it vividly through written tests or projects. Incorporate games, investigations, and creative tasks to improve engagement and motivation in mathematics learning. So with this, the facilitator knows that learning of mathematics for kids is very difficult and very hard for some students. So as he or she is teaching, he or she brings in games and also creative tasks to help engage them and to also draw the attention to whatever is being taught in class. Provide opportunity for reflection and independent learning to develop metacognitive skills. So with this, um, the 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 the, the teacher can give the students the opportunity to reflect on whatever is being taught in class and also give them assignments to work on it so that he or she sees that, oh, what I've taught in class, the students have been able to understand it. With this one, it gives them a metacognitive memory. It helps them remember whatever is being taught in class very well. So far, my group and I have presented on multiple intelligence and we have looked at what it is. We've also looked at the types. Some of the examples are the logical, partial, and also the linguistical or the linguistic intelligence. We also looked at the relevance of each intelligence in the math classroom. Thank you.